Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from FFScoutcast.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's David.
And my name's Az.
Well, welcome everyone. There's just three of us tonight. Luke couldn't make it. He had work commitments. We did have Andy, and then he couldn't make it. He had other commitments as well. So we thought we'd just go for the three of us. And what we're going to be doing tonight, David's going to tell us in a bit of detail about what we're going to be looking at. But just want to remind people that we are, in essence, looking ahead to Gameweek 24 and beyond. But Gameweek 24 is not this coming weekend. It is happening midweek next week. So, in a way, we're a little early. But David, what have we got coming up on the show?
Yep, so we're going to start where we always start, which is to look back at our most recent game week 23. And once we've gone through those, Az is going to take us through some of the horror stories and some of the nicer stories of what's happening in the game with the rough, with the smooth. Then we're going to move into our three different sections this week, framed around the big talking points in fantasy football. So the player we're going to look at is a budget Wolves midfielder, who obviously wowed everybody with a hat-trick against Leicester at the weekend. Everybody looking at maybe signing him when you think about some of the other people in the price bracket, the mid-price bracket, kind of letting people down at the moment. Then the team we're going to be looking at is Manchester City. Obviously a lot going on surrounding them with cup commitments coming up, blank game week coming up in game week 27, potential double game week sooner than many might have expected, but definitely a double game week at some point. So really we're going to discuss how to handle that, because obviously they've got some nice fixtures in the build-up to a blank, potentially a double before then. So we're going to look in detail at that. And then our talking point is, I think everybody's been thinking this really, which is obviously why we're going to go in on it, is everybody's captaining Salah right now. So it's kind of made a bit of a template for the captaincy. It's almost like there's no debate anymore. So how can we get around that? How can we make progress when so many people are just going to captain the same guy every week who looks like he's probably going to deliver as well? So, looking forward to the rest of the season. Is there a way that we can make ground and get around this big template decision that everybody's going to be making every week? And then, of course, we're going to look ahead to game week 24, which is a midweek one. So don't forget, I'm sure there'll be some of you who will. We're going to be looking at our clean sheets and differential tips. Check out how we did. I believe that we actually got a differential come in last time. So we're going to definitely absolutely make the most out of that. And then we'll talk about our transfer plans, captaincy, selections, and all the rest.
Great, thanks for that. Yes, also what we're going to do now is have a look at our Game Week 23 teams, see what happens in that week for us. But before I do that, I just wanted to put this picture up on the screen. And this is in reference to Super Sexy Spanish Alley that we were talking about last week. For those that didn't tune in, what this is about is whenever Kane is absent for whatever reason, Dele Alli, a bit like Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story 3, there's a switch on his back and he becomes super sexy man, and as he became Spanish, and he did indeed score. And so we had this wonderful picture from FPL Awesomeo. He's got the Kane and the no Kane switch there to be revealed to Dele Alli becoming that amazing super sexy Alli there, and he scored, and it was fantastic, and it was great because it kind of proved all of that research that we did, that Dele Alli does indeed step up, and he looked good. He looked like a man on the mission, and then tragedy struck. He got injured. I got him in and captained him in my Sky team, so I was pleased, but then got injured. So that looks like the latest is that Dele Alli won't be back on the pitch until early March now. So that's a great blow for him, a great blow for Spurs, a great blow for loads of people who put in the time to double check our research and prove that Dele Alli does step up. He does. Very distraught. But anyway, let's move on to
things like that though are just typical of this season. Like you try and find someone a bit different, you do loads of research, you get them in, then they're out till March.
I know it's very frustrating, but obviously not as frustrating as for poor Dele Alli, because we as fantasy managers as well are denied, I reckon, a really great prospect for the next month or so, but not to be. But let's have a look at our teams. So I'll go first. So I oddly came top, which is quite unusual for me. So I got 86. So it was a really good game week for me. I decided to get Firmino and Rashford in for the injured Kane and the not injured Ings, but he'll probably get injured soon. So I thought, why not just get rid? And obviously they both came in. My big decision was benching Alonso. as when he saw that Doherty was benched, that I was looking to get 1 point from him, gleefully told me that I should have listened to him and played Alonso instead of Doherty. Well, they got exactly the same.
I've got one.
But I would, and also I would have denied myself the
hurrah.
But I would have denied myself there the satisfaction of benching Alonso, of discarding him on the bench alongside the likes of Højbjerg and an injured guitar. So there we go. So yeah, it was a good game week for me. The key thing, and this is something that we'll discuss later when we talk about how to beat the template and how to get a good green arrow, is I moved from 16,000 to 8,000. So I got a good green arrow there. So it made me think about, why did I get a good green arrow then and I haven't in previous weeks, and was I doing something a bit different than I'd done in previous weeks? So we'll see what lessons we can learn from that. But you're next up, David. What did you get? You got 74.
74.
Another good game week for you then.
Yeah, just keep on rolling on. The move I made was the move that everybody made, really. That was Kane to Rashford. And those of you who watched The Breakfast Club will have seen that I was slightly tempted to spend the money I had in the bank, because I had 2 free transfers. And with that second transfer, I could have reinvested, I think it was 5.2 million elsewhere. And, the people who were on the chopping block were Snodgrass. I was a little bit on and on about Richarlison. So effectively, I could have moved Snodgrass up to a Dele Alli or Christian Eriksen or De Bruyne. I could have moved Richarlison to Hazard or Sterling. But basically all of those, premium midfield options, I looked at all of them and thought, well, I don't really know what they're doing in game week 27, so I don't really want to have to signing one of these guys to then in maybe 2 weeks' time get rid of them again. So I figured, because I was fairly confident-ish of what I had available, I left the 5 million in the bank, which felt a bit odd. Then of course we had Simon on the Breakfast Club, who's won the whole thing before, and he was doing the same. So instantly I realised it probably wasn't a terrible decision. So yeah, went with that. Then it means that this week I can kind of I've got a bit more information to hand, and I might use the 2 free transfers. We'll see. But in terms of what went right, obviously Salah was a captain, but every man and his dog captained him. So that wasn't where the green arrow came from. Rashford again, highly signed, so that really wasn't where it was from either. Basically, I had I think Jimenez and Sané were probably the 2 that kind of came in for me and made a bit of a difference, because I think not everybody's on, not as many people are on Jimenez. I think some people may even benched him for that game because Leicester Wolves had been a bit kind of, their underlying data had kind of suggested that they weren't going to score too many goals, and of course they went and scored 4. But I think it was Sané that was a real difference maker, because I know there was lots of people out there that didn't have City coverage after what happened over Christmas, and for whatever reason I'd stuck with them through that period, and I, especially this Huddersfield game, looked at it and thought that's a big one for them. Huddersfield had kind of recently really dipped at home in terms of the chances they were conceding, big chances as well. Man City, kind of revitalised now. It just looked like it was going to be a bloodbath, and it probably could have been if Man City had kind of bothered. They kind of seemed like they just weren't that. They didn't really need to be bothered. But the 12 points out of Sané, I think, was differential, especially over people who've got Hazard and some of the other options there. So yeah, I'm up to 3,433 now in the world, which is every week I keep climbing a little bit higher, and it's just completely uncharted territory, and I'm sure I'm going to curse myself and say it'll probably come down, eventually. But I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. I'm still top of mods and cons as well, so I'm just going to enjoy it while it lasts. Well, I hope not. Yeah, well, anything in the top 10k I'll be happy with. I mean, I said to myself this season, if I can get top 50k, I'll be happy. But obviously, like Ranieri in that famous Leicester season, I'm going to keep having to change my ambitions with each passing week. And at the moment, it's top 10k. If I finish in there, I'll be happy. But if I finish outside of it, I can't complain, can I?
Okay.
Joe, is your mic on?
No, it's not. Can you carry on for me, please, and just go into your team?
Okay, so Joe was just saying that his mic is broken, but coming onto my team anyway. Yeah, I don't know who I want to win the mods and cons least out of you two, to be honest. Probably Joe, I guess. But yeah, it's not saying much. Yeah, I captained Sterling, which was probably my big decision this week. And I just really fancied City to win that game. I've never seen a kind of a manager sacking quite like the Huddersfield one. It was, normally you've got a team at the bottom of the league and the manager's sacked because they're doing really poorly and all the fans are happy and, kind of a Mourinho type sacking. The fact that no one wanted him to go and he wanted to leave just made me think that Huddersfield weren't going to put up much of a fight. City were in form. Salah's stats weren't great. I know he's just been scoring, but I thought, he's probably going to get a goal and a few bonus. But I honestly thought Sterling could be on to a 20-pointer in that game. And if City had just got out of first gear in the first half, then I think he probably could have done. Because, the first half of that match, City were just awful, so sluggish. And then in the second half, they just turned it on for a bit and then turned it off again. I don't know, it was quite a frustrating game to watch, particularly when Salah got the 15 points. And yeah, you're going into Sunday just hoping for anything to kind of minimise the damage, when really I wanted to be going to Sunday thinking that, really optimistic and happy. And yeah, Saturday night wasn't actually that fun. So yeah, that was my big decision. My transfers, I bought in Rashford and Sterling for Richarlison and Kane, so I've got to be quite happy with that, for 2 free transfers. Yeah, just not really many other points. -1 from Luka Dean, Doherty 1, Hazard 2, Ings 2, Philippe Anderson 2. Yeah, I got to agree now with like 1,000 up from. I'm still like 190k. It's all pretty painful.
No, I think that's still pretty good though. It's 64. Was it 64? Yeah, I think that's fine. That's fine for that. It's that decision, I guess, with the Salah. I was quite surprised that you did that.
I'm surprised as well.
I didn't think.
Just fancied it. I don't want to start playing. It's a difficult one to work out whether you're kind of doing things riskily because you kind of want to do something different to get out, or whether that is what I would have done if I was still ranked around 10k. As I still ranked around. From last year, not this year. I'm trying to play the game how I would normally play it and not worry too much about the position I'm in.
Yeah.
And I just fancied City away at Huddersfield with no manager to do better than Liverpool, who have struggled against Palace in the past, and with a bit of an unsettled defence, and Salah, who most of his goals are coming from penalties, and Milner was back. It was just, it just seemed like a fairly decent opportunity to try something.
Salah was a bit fortunate anyway, wasn't he? We were having a discussion in the week about how you make your own luck, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later when we talk about the whole Salah debate anyway. But the first goal he got fortunate because the ball dropped to him from the Van Dijk block shot. It was a good finish. There's no taking away from that. I thought it was incredible, but the technique, and then but obviously the circumstances led up to it. Fortunate, and then of course I don't think anyone is going to score an easier goal.
It's that second one that really. That's that one. That one. One goal and a couple of 10, 11 points I can handle. When it's going up to 15 points and everyone has captured him. I don't know what is it. Yeah, I don't know what his effective ownership must have been in that game, but it must have been.
Well, it was
150, something like that.
We'll talk about it a bit later, but it was actually 180%.
180.
Wow.
In the top 10,000. So I say within the top 10,000, there was. I don't think you can look at overall ownership at the moment because there's so many dead teams. There's probably there'll be exact figures over Twitter, but I would say somewhere between a third and a half of players are just not playing anymore. So I always go with top 10,000 ownership because that just gives an indication of active managers. So I guess it's on a sliding scale down. So it's the further you go down the ranks, but you're still looking at absolutely huge effective ownership.
Unreal.
So what you're betting against, and once again we'll talk about this kind of preempting the conversation later, but you're betting that Salah won't do well and that Sterling will. But you're betting with it's like an absolutely huge amount of people own Salah. So that's always been the issue I've had with those types of moves to take that kind of maverick captaincy. Is that
the thing is, it's the type of move that could if Salah gets 3 points in that game and Sterling gets 15, then I half my rank.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I look at Salah and you're just the form he's in, and we were talking with Luke before. and he was, taking, how lucky Salah's been, and some of the goals would appear to be, just a penalty here, but it gets to a point, I think, where you start making your own luck. And I was going all jumpers for goalposts, imagining a fantasy world where remember young man Gary Lineker? But anyway, watch him on Match of the Day. But
I don't remember young man Gary Lineker, but
a young man, when he was a young man, Gary Lineker, watch a reel of all his goals, a show reel of all his goals, and they're just unbelievably. They're just coming off his arse, his back of his thigh. All they are is just him skidding into the box and just the ball being bundled in. Obviously, he has scored some great goals as well, but most of them just look really lucky and scrappy. But it comes to the point when you realise he's in the right place at the right time, and that was what Gary Lineker did so well. And I think Salah's just in that zone. He's just in the right place at the right time, and when he is, you just got to captain him, I think. But let's move on to some other teams, as we've got some rough with the smooths.
We do. It's a pretty interesting week, really, all round. I think the majority of people did quite well, but obviously you had one certain player who kind of shaked things up a bit, and that was Alexander-Arnold, who, he announced he's out for 4 weeks, and then suddenly he's, he might make the game, and now he's a doubt again. It's all a bit confusing. But let's start with some smooths. So gonna Mesut it up. He took Kane and Hazard and Anderson out, and he brought in Salah, captained him, Sané and Jimenez. And not only that, he had Arnautovic, and he didn't play, so he got Kolasinac off the bench. Pretty smooth.
Okay, pretty smooth.
Yep. Don't know how many points that's. I mean, who even knows how many points that is? That's got to be like 40 points or something. No more. Salah got 30 alone. God, that's like 60 points. Amazing. Dave Moosel, he claims he's dining out on his smooth. He transferred out Son, Snodgrass and Chicharito, and brought in Ali, Solanke, which is interesting. And guess who else?
Who?
Diego Jota.
Ooh.
Which, I mean, incredible foresight to get the hat-trick. Took a -8 for that. And he's ranked around the 2K mark. So he's another James Bond-esque fantasy player. I mean, to take a -8 and to bring in Jota and Solanke and for it to pay off.
God.
Yep.
He's
amazing.
I don't know. What's he? Is he M or something? He's the guy behind the scenes pulling the strings? Or the
who
woman,
knows?
Indeed.
I think he must be able to see the future to get away with that. Ramboros, now he took a 16-point hit. He took out Kane, Vardy, Pereira, Hazard and Balbuena. Okay. And he brought in Bednarak, Pogba, Salah, Rashford and Firmino.
Okay.
and he gained 16 points on those moves. So just very nice.
What a smooth criminal.
Very smooth. And my last smooth is Annie, who took Mitrovic, Kane and Richarlison out and brought in Rashford, Sané and Firmino, 21 points.
Good.
What I liked about all of those is that they're just big hits. And we talked about hits last week, and people were a bit inspired by that. So yeah, a lot of the smooths were
I hope that's exactly what we do. We inspire people to take lots of hits, and then we will get a better score than them, because most of the time lots of hits doesn't work out at all. So no, obviously I don't want to recommend people do bad things.
I mean, my hits have been awful, so I need to learn from these guys. Bring in just players who I never would have thought of, and then watch them score. So some roughs, and there were quite a few roughs, and a lot of the roughs focused around Alexander-Arnold and also Lucas Dean, who a lot of people very smartly benched. But then ended up getting off the bench anyway. So Darth Crid, he brought in Shaw for Alexander-Arnold, and then Shaw got injured in the warm-up or was ill in the warm-up, and he had Lucas Dean first sub. So not exactly someone you want coming in for. Yeah, I mean,
that's nothing worse than that, is there? Where
unlucky, isn't it?
Where you make the right call with a player that gets a minus, and often it's usually because they get maybe a yellow card and then they just concede a hatful of goals, and then you have to suffer them coming back into your team.
Yep. And hot dogs for tea. He got Dean off the bench for Arnautovic, which is annoying. And Brimble82, he actually sold Kolasinac for Dean. So that just sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that was I'd have said that was like the right move. I think that's what's so frustrating about these, isn't it? They're like on paper the right call, and then it just blows up in your face. Ugh.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've got two more.
Oh yeah.
Two more. Just to go. Mr. Funny Name. He transferred Alonso out for Alexander Arnold as an early transfer, and then was like, "Oh no, he's injured." So then
Yeah.
transferred Alexander out for Doherty,
Oh.
who didn't start, and so that cost him 8 points.
Do you know
I've
what?
seen some people do that with Dean as well.
Yeah,
It's just-
I saw lots of this over the week, and they were saying the same thing. They got rid of Alonso for Alexander Arnold, and then when they found out Alexander Arnold was injured, they got rid of him again, and then they found out that Alexander Arnold could be back in a week or two, and but what got me was the opening line of so often they said I had to do that before there was a price fall for Alonso. And I saw the same thing, people doing it for Richarlison. I've had to move to get rid of Richarlison to get X player in because of the price fall. And I just think, especially with that Alexander Arnold move, that just shows the danger of those early transfers. Sometimes they can work. But it's that feeling that I had to do it. I had to get that. And you didn't have to do that at all because you would have lost 0.1. But as it is, you probably lost 4 points and maybe another 4 points down the line. And I just don't think
You can understand if it's going up to someone.
Yeah, and if it's going to lock them out of the move.
Exactly. If it's a move you want to make, and if that price rise means it locks you out of it, I can completely understand that, and I think that's absolutely fine. But doing it simply to say 0.1,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I had Kane right up until Friday night, and I think I lost 0.2 maybe, because of just how many falls there were. But it's worth it because, it meant that whoever I signed in as a replacement, obviously in this case it was Rashford, I knew that he was fine and that I wasn't going to have to move him on again. And it's worth paying 0.2 because, if someone is like significantly more expensive, who cares? You probably if you get the right person in at the right time and you don't end up having to send them out again, you might make that money back within a couple of weeks, just off the player you signed, doing well and getting someone.
It's one of those trade-offs, isn't it? I mean, if you make a transfer early on in the week, you get the maximum reward if it pays off. You might make 1.1, 0.2 or whatever. But to me, waiting until later in the week just. I don't know. It is tough. I mean, as someone said just in the chat, Mark makes early transfers and makes a lot of team value and does really well out of it. It's never really been for me. And last season, when I was actually doing quite well, I made sure that I didn't make my transfers until Friday, every week. And I think I might, obviously you might break that 1 or 2 times, but mostly leaving it to the end of the week does tend to pay off.
And you had your best season last season.
Yeah.
Well, and also just to point out, I mean, obviously I'm having my best season. I haven't made a single transfer earlier than Friday this season. It's always been Friday at the earliest. So I mean, it's another case of that.
Spot the link.
It happened with Aguero last year, didn't it? Do you remember? I think he scored quite heavily, and then loads of people. It was over the international break, I think, and then loads of players brought him in, and then he got injured.
There's something else we're going to discuss. I'm kind of preempting so much that we're going to talk about a bit later, but I can't stress how important it is to wait at the moment because we have blank and double game week announcements going to be coming up. And if you start making a move now because you want to say 0.1 million on a Richarlison drop or something like that, then you might have a rude awakening when it comes to any announcements around double and blank game weeks, and you really wish you'd save that transfer because information is key. Let's move on to the community questions.
I'll do one quick shout out to the Onion Bag on Twitter. Who bought in Dean and Llorente, 2 players with 2 own goals.
Wow,
just fantastic.
There we go. Okay, well, well, let's move on to the community question. And there is a player, isn't there, that everyone is talking about. Who is that, and what are they asking?
And we didn't all have the foresight of Dave Moosel to bring him in last week, but Diogo Jota. Rostar says Jota is impressing for Wolves with his side strong fixtures, his low price and recent returns. Is he worth getting in? Duyan says, is Jota just a knee-jerk transfer who can't repeat his hat-trick heroics? And Stefano Kruger says, should we be tripping up on Wolves with a Jota, Doherty and Jimenez trio? Let's go to you first, Joe. What do you reckon about him?
I like him. I like a lot about him, and here's why. I like the way he's playing for Wolves at the moment and where he's playing up front with Jimenez. And something has happened basically. So what I did is I had a look over his last 5 games where he's actually played, and he's a bit of a roller coaster player in terms of minutes. So he's played 90 minutes or so 3 times. One was about 87 minutes. 58 minutes another time, 45 minutes another. So there's still a bit of rotation going on there. But this also happened to Jimenez as well. But during that time, he's racked up 2 double-digit hauls, which is pretty impressive, considering his 5.9, I believe now. And he's also got a 4-pointer and just 1 point as well over that time as well. So he's up and down. But for that price, for 2 double-digit hauls in recent weeks, I think it's fantastic. 1.6% owned currently, which is another big plus in his favour. And so I did a little comparison, compared game weeks 1 to 14 and game weeks 15 to 23. Now, he was injured for part of that period, so luckily on Fantasy Football Scout they just mentioned his appearances, so it didn't count those blanks. Basically, he was averaging a goal a game between game weeks 15 and 23 in the matches he played. His shot in the box rate is double compared to earlier in the season. His big chances are up from pretty much negligible each game to 1.4 a game, averaging. Once again, with that price, 5.9. But his through balls and his chances created is down. So basically what has happened is that he has become the main focal point for goals, and Jimenez is tasked with feeding him. And so is Neves, and so are the other Moutinho and all of the other players around him. And that seems to be what has happened there. So is he better than some of those other players that we've got, Anderson and Richarlison? On current form, yes. And also we're looking at the fixtures. Wolves have great fixtures as well. So as I'll discuss a bit later, when it comes to doubling up on players, that doesn't worry me. I'm not necessarily saying I'm going to get him in, because I'm looking at potential blank and double game weeks. But I think if anyone's tempted to get him in, I think he's a great player to get in. He's got value. He's got an emerging striker role, really, rather than a creator role. And he's got everything. He's got fixtures as well, form. I mean, I don't know. What more do people want?
Yeah, I mean, 5.9 million. I mean, I had him in my team at the start of the season. I remember when I did the price reveal video for FPL. They said to me, who's the player you're kind of most excited about seeing? And obviously Salah was there and Aguero and people, but Jota was one of the ones I was really looking at. And when I saw he was listed as a midfielder, I thought, right, he is going to be, he's going to be in the template. He's going to be the main man. Everyone's going to get him. He's going to be great. He's going to get 15 goals and 10 assists, and he's going to be the next Mahrez or the next Ramsey or whatever. And it just hasn't happened. He's just he's been out of the team. He's been injured, and it's not worked at all. And Jimenez has been the go-to man. I think I saw some of that. He had a slow start to the season last year as well, and it wasn't until around kind of this period that he really got going. I didn't realize he was only 22. That's really young for a striker. And I think he's coming in to form at a good time when players like Richarlison and Felipe Anderson are going off the boil. I mean, Richarlison's just completely gone, and Anderson is struggling. I think West Ham are probably going to struggle with the fixtures turning, and Arnautovic is whatever's going on with that. Who even knows? Talk about them signing Mario Balotelli. I saw today. I mean, God,
yeah, that would solve their Maverick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just one Maverick player to another Maverick, but much less good. So yeah, I really like Jota, and we're going to talk about players who are going to kind of break templates up and things. I think he's good. And what I also really like about him is I do think the fact that not most people, but a lot of people have got Jimenez is going to put them off, and with Doherty as well, because the triple up, that we asked about, it does seem quite excessive to triple up on a team, especially when that team is Wolves, who can be they've had some good results, but they've also lost some games they perhaps shouldn't have done. You can't really. They're quite a tough team to predict, and I've found those kinds of team quite hard this year with Everton and West Ham. I've loaded up on those players, and 1 week West Ham are beating Arsenal, and the next they're getting smashed by Bournemouth. It is really frustrating when you've got 3 assets tied up in one team. Then I do struggle. I haven't got Jimenez though. I'm one of the few who haven't had him all season. So with Wolves' fixtures coming up, they've got a great run of fixtures, haven't they? The next six are just brilliant.
West Ham, Everton,
Yeah.
Newcastle, Bournemouth, Huddersfield. That's just
And then
beautiful.
Cardiff. I mean, that's
Yeah.
six matches where you're going to expect quite a lot of points. So yeah, I'm definitely considering him, and I think he's cheap and he's a good he's a good option. What about you, David? Anything to add?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, I'm in that annoying situation where I already have a Wolves triple up, and just to kind of touch on what you were saying there, I've been regretting that for a few weeks, and I think it was, I mean, the Leicester game really is what made me realise that if I was wildcarding right now, I definitely wouldn't have Patricio, for example, because they're just not keeping clean sheets. So it's annoying because then it means I actually can't get Jota without doing a move elsewhere that I don't really want to have to make. So for me, he's a complete no-go, and I'm sure there'll be other people in a similar boat. And I completely echo the idea of if you've got Jimenez, then it does feel excessive, because I know they scored 4 against Leicester, but Leicester were awful in that game. I mean, it was quite obvious what they were doing wrong. Like Danny Simpson, for example, anyone who saw Jota's first goal, there was just such poor defending. You know, he knew he was there, and he kept backtracking and just never tried to attack the cross and just let himself get nipped across at the post. And then, of course, for some of the other goals as well, like Leicester were pushing, to try and get back into the game. So, I mean, the main thing for me really is that, actually just to go back to what Joe was saying about what more can people want, I guess you've kind of already touched on it already. I just want a bit of consistency. So I've taken quite a patient approach this year, and I waited 2 games before I got Pogba, for example. And yeah, maybe I missed out on some points, but I just kind of wanted to know who was the real deal. And, it is worth saying that in that game, Jota got 5 big chances, which is huge. He had 4 shots, 4 in the box, 4 on target, and obviously scored with 3 of them. Probably could have had 4 goals, really. I know it's a hat trick, so that's great. But I guess what I'd like to see is maybe the West Ham game, him do something similar, shoot the same number of times, maybe more, get a goal, a goal or 2, and then just kind of string it together over a certain period of time before to make me think, oh, it's not just flash in the pan, because that's just my approach. I don't like to jump on someone really quickly.
I think that's the problem. I think it's a problem I'm having quite a lot this year, whereas my kind of intuition's been fairly decent in previous seasons, I'm struggling to really get ahead of the curve this year. And when you think about the template that's emerged that we're going to talk about later, a lot of the players who I think kind of, break that template are players like Jota, Lucas Moura who's coming in, 6.9. I think he's a really good option as well. And again, it's quite an easy downgrade for someone with Richarlison and Felipe Anderson. Pascal Gross is someone I'm really interested in as well, because he's so good last season, scored against United, back to double-digit returns away from home as well, which he never did last season. So if he can start getting some of those as well, that really boosts his appeal. But they all come with a lot of risk because they just haven't done it. Mm-hmm. They might have done it in patches. I mean, Moura was great for a bit and then went off and then got injured. Jota hasn't only just started going. Gross just hasn't been doing it at all. So you're kind of transferring these players in, and they all do come with such a risk, but they're all quite good prices. And if they do, catch fire, then it's good.
Right now, then I think I'd strongly be considering him, because I mean he was so key to them last year. That's the thing is, if they're gonna if he's in the team and he's doing well and they're kind of playing to his strengths again, 17 goals for them last season, that's great. I think just kind of going back to explaining why maybe he had a bit of a slow start. They didn't have Jimenez last year, and that might have maybe kind of just had a bit of an impact on him, because he was playing as a forward player, and then a new one's come in and kind of plays a slightly different game to him. So I think it took a little bit of time to get up to speed with that. But the chances of him being heavily involved in goals again this season are fairly high. I have to admit that, because that's what it was last year. So he's already been there and done it as the number 1 Wolves man. He's not going to shy away from being the goal scorer in this team.
Yeah. No, I think overall we all like him, but there are those caveats there. Not sure. I just think it's that price thing. It's not like a 10 million striker, and I think it's just those fixtures. It just seems that everything seems to be, going in his direction. And also, it's that fact that we're going to talk about later about the emerging template, about how you get a big green arrow, and he's exactly the kind of player that can help you get a big green arrow. For that price, to get 2 double-digit hauls within last 5 starts, that's really impressive. That's kind of starting to get towards the kind of value that, say, Fraser has been offering fantasy managers throughout the season. But Bournemouth don't have the same fixtures as well. We've seen that they're obviously less effective because, as most kind of minor teams are, no disrespect to them, but a non-top 6 team, once they have those tougher run of fixtures, obviously their returns are going to go down as well. Wolves have the good fixtures. Let's move on to the team that people have been asking about, and this is going to lead into a discussion of what early thoughts we've got around blank and double game weeks. So, David, who is the team that people are asking us questions about?
Yep. So the big team that's at the centre of this blank and double game week is, of course, Man City. We think they'll probably be in the League Cup final. You'd suggest, already 9-0 up in the semi-final.
I mean, you can never underestimate Burton, but I think 10 goals is against Man City is a stretch for them.
If Leicester can win the league, Burton can beat City 10-0.
Bit of Clough magic.
Yeah. Something could be brewing, you could say, if you know, if you know what I mean. Right. The questions then. Karen14 has said, should we be looking to get Man City midfielders in, even though they'll have that blank game week in game week 27? Obviously, that's referencing the fact that will have a corresponding double at some point. Smudger Smiles, FPL Jacket Potato, and others have all generally asked, what are the early thoughts about those upcoming blanks and doubles? What should we be watching out for in the upcoming cup games regarding FPL, and which team should we be looking at for our transfers? So obviously, let's start with Man City. Looking at the options that we've got available to us, the time that we've got before then. So I mean, I think just before we come into the questions, I guess we just point out that in the build up to game week 27, Man City is Newcastle away, so very nice fixture. Then Arsenal at home, potentially also a very nice fixture. They're out without Bellerin now as well. And then Chelsea at home. So, fixtures before then look kind of nice. One of them could be a double, but they won't play in game week 27. So, what's the thinking? Let's start with you, Az.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the Scoutcast as well. I wasn't aware that there was going to be a potential double game week that could be coming. Was it? Would you say, Joe? It was like to do with the FA Cup replays. If there's no FA Cup replays, it might be. It is
basically it's possible. It's possible that game week 25 could be a double game week for the teams in the League Cup final who miss game week 27. Only possible because that time would be for replays in the FA Cup. So if none of those teams are involved in any replays, there's basically a potential space for them there. And as the season goes on, the spaces become even more limited. So we have had that before. People will remember when Man City were previously in a League Cup final, they had a double game week 26, and it was that one. People remember, we were talking about it earlier. This will jog people's memory. Aguero got 7 points, so 21 for those like me that triple captained him. And the best players to get were in fact Stoke defenders that game, that double game week. So that might jog people's memories. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the obviously that kind of changes how you plan for these. As soon as you find out what's going to happen with those games, it changes the way you kind of think about things. I think City are an interesting one to think about with double game weeks because you're going to expect massive rotation anyway. You're going to get even more rotation at a double game week, you would have thought, and especially now they've got almost a fully fit squad. Mendy's back, which is huge, and there seems to be mass panic at the moment that he's just going to come into the team and Sané's never going to play again. It's going to be like the start of the season. I'm not really sure that's going to happen. I think if anything, Mendy's just a big upgrade on whoever they're playing, Danilo or Delph or Zinchenko, and I think now Sané's in this form. I think he's got to be pretty safe, surely. I'd have thought. I've got Sterling, and I'd be holding him. But I think what's interesting about a lot of the City players is that they're not like Salah or Hazard. There's not huge amounts of price rises that have happened with them. So Sané's 9.7, which is up 0.2 from his original price. Aguero's around the same price. Sterling's up 0.3 or something. So actually taking them out and getting in a player for a week or two, if they have got a blank, they will have a blank. Isn't that isn't that concerning. It's when you're taking out players and you're going to be losing 0.5, 0.6 of them, which would worry me. So I'd be happy ditching Sterling for a week and then bringing him back in. If there's a double game week coming up, then you have to load up, surely, depending on what the fixtures are. I think it's Chelsea, you said, Joe, before this started, that would have an amazing double game week of was it Brighton and...
Yeah, we Huddersfield and Brighton, I believe.
At home.
So that's if Chelsea get through to the League Cup final and there's no FA Cup replay involving them or any of their opponents, and goes on. So lots of ifs and buts at this stage, but it's good.
I guess the issue is you load up. You get six players, 3 from City, 3 from Chelsea, and then 2 weeks later you're going into a blank, and then suddenly you've got to shift them all again. It's just about finding the balance, isn't it, between having a decent bench to cover some of the players you kind of want to keep, and then shifting out others.
I prefer having the blank afterwards, because you can load up or look before and then you can ship out, rather than having to say go without them 1 week and then you want to load up the next week, and you just you're going to run out of time, and that's really difficult to do. That means you've got to bench them.
Also, what the free hit's for, if you wanted to go down that route. Bring in 6 players, free hit when the blanks come out.
That's the ideal use for the free hit, and that's where people that have used their free hit chip already will start to think, oh my God, I wish I hadn't used that on some pointless game week earlier in the season.
That was definitely of better use around this time. I think if I would love the double to be in 25, because for me it'd be easier to load up and then jettison personally, I think, but that's just because of who I've already got. I've already got a lot of Chelsea. I've got Chelsea. I've got a lot of Man City. I've got Burnley as well. I've got Everton players too. So it kind of just, I guess, depends on how your squad's looking right now. So I mean, with me, on the Man City subject, I've only got Sané, and I'm gonna possibly slightly disagree with Az and suggest that I do think that his place could be at jeopardy, properly out of jeopardy with Mendy coming back. But that's only because I'm a warrior. My ideal situation, I mean, the way I see it on the Sané thing is Mendy coming back might actually be perfect timing, because I would love it to be a situation where all of a sudden Sané becomes someone I can't be sure of a start of anymore by game week 27, so that actually I can just get rid of him, and then that'd be it, and then I go elsewhere. But I mean, I don't know exactly where I would go. I could go to De Bruyne, because if he's getting kind of back to where he should be, then he is the kind of person I expect to start every week. So that could be a nice little switch once their blank is out of the way. But I mean, it's tricky on all of them, because any blank that comes up, there's going to be rotation. And I mean, if someone was to ask me now, what is the ideal trip up for a double game week on Man City, it would be a tough one to answer. I mean, to be honest, I'd probably say Edison, I'd probably say Laporte, I'd probably say De Bruyne, and they're all 3 people that I don't have, and actually a lot of people don't have, kind of for good reason up until this point, because their clean sheets haven't been particularly strong thing to look at. De Bruyne hasn't really been back in the frame too much, and then outside of that, I don't trust Sterling to start every week. With Mendy back, I don't see Sané starting every week. I mean, of course, I'm happy to be proved wrong, absolutely. But it's so tricky with Man City. I think between now and then, their fixtures, I'm gonna hold Sané, I think, until game week 27. That if we find out that the double game week is afterwards, and then we don't have to think about the double being in game week 25, I'm happy to hold him for those 3 games, because Newcastle away, I think that's going to be a routine win for Man City, and I back them to beat Arsenal and Chelsea at home, because both of those teams have the ability to crumble, against Man City. And I think we kind of touched on it earlier, when it comes to planning for a blank, you don't want to be focusing purely on the blank and forgetting that these Man City players do actually have some good fixtures between now and then. And the same, because the thing is, obviously we're recording this on a Tuesday. By late Thursday night, we're going to know which one of Spurs and Chelsea have a blank or don't. And that could be the difference for some people on Alonso. It could be the difference for some people on what we do in midfield for like Spurs, for example. So if we know they're going to play, and that Hazard's not going to play, and you're kind of fed up with him anyway, then you can then someone like Eriksen you can maybe think about, or Moura if you really trust Spurs without all of those big guns. So I mean, even now, in terms of what exactly I would do, it's a little bit uncertain just because we've got the League Cup to come, and then the FA Cup as well on the weekend. So there's still plenty of things that could change. So always worth saying that if you're listening to this after the FA Cup, we're probably a little bit out of date on that little part of the schedule, I suppose. Joe, obviously with the Man City players you've got in your squad, what's your plan for?
Okay, well, before we look at the kind of fixtures, I just wanted to look at the Sané issue. So I've got Sané at the moment. Obviously, if they've got a double game week, I'm going to want more City. But I'm happy to keep Sané. I am worried about the Mendy move, but I'm being a little less worried thanks to someone on Twitter called FPL Colonel, or just FPL Cole. Perhaps he's FPL Colin. Colonel sounds better though. But he has done some analysis, and it's great. I've retweeted it today, so go on my Twitter and have a look at that. He is also at COLFPL on Twitter, and he's got some great analysis there. And he's found that Sané and Mendy can and have played effectively together. They played a full 90 minutes twice. The other times where they played together, Sané has come on as a sub and also been effective as well. He has found that on the occasions, on the different scenarios, Mendy plays, Sané doesn't. Sané and Mendy play, just Sané plays and Mendy doesn't. In all of those, Sané's position is very similar. So what doesn't happen is that Mendy bombs forward and Sané drifts back. That doesn't happen. Sané just still bombs forward there. He's got nearly identical touches each match, and the positioning with or without Mendy. And the average returns are really high as well. In fact, did quite well getting some points on as a sub as well, so I'm not worried about that. The big minus is those limited minutes historically in the past, but on Sané's current form, bearing in mind he was seen as being a bit unfit at the beginning of the season by Pep. On current form, he looks hard to drop. He looks there. I mean, I might be biased because I own him, but I've watched the matches, and he seems the best player in Man City's ranks. He seems the best outlet, really. Obviously with Sterling looking good as well. And if they play together, his conclusion is if they play together, Sané's still good. And his overall conclusion, if you got Sané, keep him. But I mean, if you haven't got him, I don't know. I think you might be missing out on points because as we saw this week, another double-digit haul there, and he also outscored Sterling once again. He's been doing that all season when he gets those minutes as well. So I just wanted to flag that up. Just coming back to the fixtures, really. We discussed basically going to miss game week 27. Man City could have a double game week 25, but they're going to have a double game week at some point. Lots depends on the fixtures with the FA Cup. Now I'm going to put the picture up on the screen, and it's going to come with some very, very crucial advice to people. There is a chap called Ben Krellin. Follow him on Twitter and just keep following him. He puts up fantastic pictures like the one I've just put up, and that shows lots and lots of percentage chances of matches being blanks. And this one I'll put up here, just an example. So for game week 31, so this is going to be a potential blank game week due to FA Cup quarter-final commitments. We can see there that Fulham versus Liverpool is definitely on, because both of them are knocked out. So that's definitely on. So that's one of the reasons I felt comfortable getting Firmino in. I didn't have to worry about anything. I just know that if I want to keep him, he's going to play. And it's got a kind of a sliding scale there, kind of the chances of being a blank. So because of who they're playing in the FA Cup. And so Everton and Chelsea, that looks like it's probably going to go ahead. Man United, Man City is probably going to go ahead. And then you go down the list, Burnley, Leicester, Bournemouth, Newcastle might not go ahead. So this is the kind of thing you look at. Ben can explain much better than I can. But I just think that's a crucial bit of advice there. So for me, I'm looking at potential. I'd love a Chelsea double game week, but I also like Chelsea to get some form back because they've got the best one, Huddersfield and Brighton, if it's in double game week 25, that is. But will their form come back as well? It's a lot up in the air at the moment, and particularly with Spurs as well, another team involved. So Dele Alli's now injured, Harry Kane's injured, Son is away on international duty, Sissoko's not there. Bizarrely, Sissoko is now quite a crucial part of their midfield. it doesn't really leave a tremendous amount of players for us to think where the goal's going to come from. So it could come from Moura, it could come from Lamella, Llorente. It's not very inspiring at the moment. And so for me, the overall message is follow Ben Crellin on Twitter, and also hold your transfer. Don't make that move. Wait until you get that more crucial information, because we may even find out whether there is a double game week before the next deadline, I believe. So
entirely horrible. I'm going to add a question in that I've seen people asking me last couple of days on the Man City thing. Obviously, we kind of talked about it a lot already. But let's say you're in a situation where you don't have any Man City players right now, and I know that obviously the decision about game week 25 could affect it. But even if there's not going to be let's say the double game week is after game week 27, would you sign a Man City player now based off the 3 games that they've got there before the blank? Because a lot of people are seriously worried about not having the coverage. And so it's a really tough question. I can see as already the cogs are whirring in your brain.
They are. It's never a good sign. It's slowly turning. Yeah, I went without them for a bit, and it was pretty horrible. They're the kind. We saw it. We saw kind of 2 sides to it over the last couple of weeks. Last week the points were the week before last, the points were really spread out between all the players. So I think Sané got an assist and Sterling scored on Aguero. I can't remember exactly what happened, but there was no massive hauls in the team. I think Jesus was the highest scoring player, and when it's like that, it's kind of all right, because that's when they kind of all cancel each other out, because any of them could get points and any of them being rotated, and then you think, oh, that's fine, I can be about those. And then you see the team sheet like it was against Huddersfield, and you think, oh my god, I wish that you just know there's absolutely no chance that those City players aren't gonna get returns. So yeah, it's one of those risk and reward situations, and for me, it's just too rewarding to have a City player in your team, and especially when the ownership isn't even that high. Sterling's like 10%, Sané's only like 14% ownership. So these players are going to boost you up the rankings when they start, and to me the fixtures don't even really matter. They you're expecting them to score 2 or 3 goals every game. All you need to do is see your player on the team sheet, and you're gonna be pretty confident of getting returns. And City and Liverpool are just so far ahead of any other team in the league that I just don't think you can not have at least one. You need Salah, and I think you need at least one of Sané or Sterling. That's how I feel.
I think I agree with you. I'm going to put the question slightly differently to you, Joe, because of what you just mentioned about free transfers. If you're faced with a dilemma of, not necessarily a dilemma, but you've got the choice. You've got no Man City players, and the choice is use my free transfer to sign a Man City player for game week 24, or don't use it at all to bank 2 free transfers for game week 25. What would you choose? And I know that that's probably going to be affected by the announcements.
If Man City got double game week, then that's a no-brainer. You focus on Man City players. But if they haven't, then they've still got fairly okay fixtures, and then just have a blank in game week 27. And as Az said, you've got 3 game weeks there where you're missing out on a Man City player. They're in good form at the moment. I think for me, if you're looking, say the scenario is there's no double game week before game week 27's blanks, then you're just looking at your own exposure to risk. So you've got to look at the other players that you've got in. So in the game week 27, Man City play Everton. So for Everton blank as well. Now I've got Luca Dean. I'm okay benching him that week. But if I had Richarlison as well as Luca Dean, then you've got 2 players there. So you've got to start thinking, I'll probably more be thinking instead of, I'd be more thinking about ditching one of them, basically, Richarlison probably, if I own both of those. But then you're also looking to say, for example, Chelsea, match with Brighton is the one that's postponed there. So you're looking at your exposure to Chelsea. I've got Alonso there. Some people have got Alonso and Hazard. So say Chelsea go through to the cup, and someone's got Richarlison, Dean, Alonso and Hazard, or perhaps David Luiz instead of Alonso. So you've already got 4 players. You're already a man down. You can only field less than 11 as well. These are the things you need to look at, really. And obviously if Spurs go through, they're playing Burnley as well. So say for example you've got David, you've got Ashley Barnes as well. So your exposure to that risk of a blank game week there is heightened as well. So it's not just looking at how many Man City players I've got or haven't got or want to get in. It's can I get 11 good players out in game week 27 anyway? And if my team is chock-a-block full of players that are missing and are definitely going to miss that fixture, then I've got an issue. And that's the thing that's going to be driving me. Less about I'll be looking to get a Man City player in, I think, because I think Sané and Sterling brilliant options at the moment, and Richarlison's definitely got to be on the chopping block surely for those owners.
And I think like Paul fans just said in the chat, I think probably the number one target for a Man City double game week it might even be Ederson, because he's the only one who is going to play both games.
I would definitely be looking at making sure I've got money in the bank to get Ederson, because we've seen time and again goalkeepers in double game weeks amazing. Especially if there is, like Ederson has the chance of clean sheets.
Yeah, definitely worth thinking about. I think, Ederson, Laporte, and maybe De Bruyne, probably the three that if I could just free hit on that, I'd probably look at. As people I'd say would definitely play both. So, but yeah, as we've said, lots up in the air. So I'm sure that things will have changed by the time we get through to the game with 24. But it's definitely good to think about these things, isn't it?
Okay, let's move on to the talking point that people are asking about. Now, the picture I'm putting up on the screen is last week's game week's captain poll, which shows Salah on 6,200 votes and some other blokes on less than 1,000. Pogba on 7% of the vote there, Rashford 5%, Aguero 4%. They're the three next ones. This just is an indication of the power of Mo Salah at the moment. He's got absolutely huge ownership amongst active players and amongst top players in the top 10,000. And he's going to be the most popular captain choice as well, because he's got good fixtures and he's got that form as well. So many are asking, how do we counter this emerged template with Salah dominating the captaincy and everyone now owning Pogba and Rashford? How do we get green arrows? So Ulysses FPL asks, he says, Kane's injury, so this was going back last week, has made the game boring, he says. Everyone has a similar team now, especially with Salah being captained by so many. For example, on Saturday, I only went from 30,000 to 29,000 because basically he had the template team. He didn't have that kind of differential that Kane captaincy offered. So how can we ensure we get big green arrows? Let's go to you first, David, on this. You're doing well, flying up the rankings, but your green arrows, are they getting smaller at the moment? And how do you think you would manage to get good, massive, huge green arrows?
Well, I mean, it's a slightly tricky question to answer because of the position I'm in. I'm not expecting huge green arrows at the moment because there's not really that much further to go. So, I mean, in the top...
All right for some, isn't it?
For you.
That's not what I'm going for.
No, but in your position, if you move up 1,000 places in the rankings, that's a huge green arrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's what I mean. It's all relative. Your green arrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Even 500 places would be good.
I went up 1,000 places and I was cut like a knife.
For ours, it's 100,000 places, but for you, it's all relative. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, it's all relative. Yeah, sorry, that's what I should have said. Sorry for that. Cheers. Az is crying now. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think I still insist that at this sort of stage, really, you make up the difference outside of your captaincy. And I mean, I guess it does depend on where you are. But the last couple of months, for me, there's been success in just captaining who I believe is the safest option, not the most explosive. And I still see Salah as the safer option, whereas your Sterling's, like obviously that has looked at this week, is an explosive option, but I always just see the word explosive and I just see the word risk, So I still think that actually, to be honest, like you've just got to keep captaining Salah if you've got him and the fixture's good, because again, it's exposure to risk. If you don't captain Salah and he scores 4 goals, which he's fully capable of doing, it's awful for you. But this week I've managed to go up about 1,000 places by captaining Salah and then just having around him other people in my sort of region of the overall rankings don't have, and I think, without going into too much detail, I think that was Sané. I think Jimenez played a part in that as well. I think a Pogba Rashford double up maybe helped as well, because some people might have not gone in with 2 players for United, and that still gave me that still gave me a green arrow that I was really happy with. I'm glad that we're obviously talking about this now. We had a question time on the site today, and I've got to say, and this is no disrespect to the other people who've provided question answers in the past, but we had an incredible one from Simon, who obviously knows exactly what he's talking about because he won it in 2014-15. And he said much the same. He basically said that you're better off at this stage of the season still just going with the pack on the captaincy, going outside of that for maybe your differential options for people around you, in your perhaps maybe in your 5-6 brackets. I mean, maybe that's where Jota comes in. Maybe Jota's how you get around this whole Salah thing, because if you're getting him in when other people have still got Richarlison, who isn't even having shots, and Jota's having 5 big chances a game and is getting double figure hauls, then that's going to make a big difference for you. And then it was a case of just wait until the double game weeks, because really that's where you can make the difference up, because normally there's more options for the captaincy, especially when you consider that Salah isn't going to have a double game week. That is maybe the time when you can go outside of Salah and find something a bit more. Some people might even sell him. There will be people that will sell him because he's only playing once. So maybe that's when things will get shaken up. And basically his bottom line, which I just thought was brilliant, was he says, I'm just going to quote him directly rather than try and sum it up. He said, over the course of a season, the best differential is consistency, by which he's referring to, just going with the safe captain option and taking minimized risks outside of that. Consistency is the best differential. And sometimes that means being patient, taking small informed risks over time, not forcing the big bad ones, like, for example, captaining someone who isn't Salah just because 60% of people captain Salah, and then let other people make those mistakes. And then that will be your differential by just playing it safe. And, you can't really argue with him in terms of that being a strategy because he's won it. So, for me, I mean, I'm sure we can discuss it, but I'm just saying I completely agree with him. I think that's got to be the way around it at this stage. I think the way around Salah has got to be later in the season when things change schedule-wise. That's how I see it.
So now, it's good. It's good that you made that point. Obviously, Simon, as someone who's won it, knows exactly what it takes to get the ultimate green arrow to number one. But as in contrast, this week you captained Sterling. Now that's an interesting move because you were going against what Simon has said there. Your feeling was that Sterling would have. You were betting that Salah wouldn't get as much as Sterling, presumably. So is your take on this to go for those differential captaincy, or are you just doing that and you don't really believe it?
Well, a disclaimer. Just like listen to Simon over me, for God's sake.
I know. I didn't want to phrase it in that kind of way, like this guy's won it, so who are you?
Yeah.
But then obviously you have a tactic and you used it, so it'd be interesting to know why.
I think I think you probably finished higher than him last season, I would suggest.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not. Let's not say you're no Mo.
Yeah. In our world, you're better than him, even though he's won. So what you've gone for that different tack. Why, and do you think it will be successful?
I've got a pretty bad track record with captains when they aren't, when they're doing so. Like, I'm quite happy to go for a Richarlison captain or a Lingard captain or something when I see something that I think is there in the stats or in the fixture, and if Salah hasn't got a particularly good game, then I'm tempted to go for it. It's worked well for me. I mean, for all the joking about the Lingard captain and that, I have occasionally hit a decent captain. So if you can hit someone like Hazard at the right time, 15, 16 points. I've hit Sanchez a couple of times when he was at Arsenal, who got hat tricks and was really lowly owned. And it is the difference between hitting a captain like that. So catching a Salah blank and a Sterling hit could be the difference between me finishing in the top 10k this season and me finishing in the top 100k. So I don't think you can completely discredit taking a risk when you've got the kind of opportunity to do it. And I felt like that Huddersfield game had all the right features of being that potential game, and it didn't work out. And it's easy to look back with hindsight and say it was a terrible call, and they normally are when you go for a risky move like that. But a lot of the game is about backing your hunch, and Simon wouldn't have got to number one doing that strategy. Simon wouldn't be the number one player in the world if every week he did the most consistent thing and only backed Salah and because that strategy isn't always enough. It can get you a top 10k finish. It's never going to get you a top 1 finish. So it depends on your play style and how you like to play. Some people like to play very conservatively. Some people like to play a bit more dangerously. Mark is famous for his kind of maverick moves and maverick captains. They didn't work out last year when he was going for Kane and trying to find a player around Salah who everyone was captaining to captain, and he admits that was something that went really badly for him. It looks like I'm making that same mistake this year and trying to find the difference. But Salah is just a really rare type of player, and for people who find the captaincy so difficult to get right, then he just presents that great option of being logical and providing and doing everything that you want him to do, and then you fill your team in with players around the side who you hope can get you points. Because I mean the template is really strong. I mean you've got Pogba, you've got Rashford, you've got Sané or Sterling, you've got Hazard, you've got Salah, you've got Doherty, you've got Lucas Dean, you've got Alexander-Arnold or Robertson, you've got Fabianski. I mean those players are in all the teams that you see on Twitter, they're in all the teams you see on Fantasy Scout, and they're not actually doing that well. When you actually look at their points, I mean, someone like Doherty, for example, his recent points are 1, 1, 1, 5, 2, 1, 6. I mean, he hasn't got a double-digit score since game week 8. And, he's in everyone's team. And it's kind of, does he need to be? Is there not anyone else that you can look to get around? So I think there is still potential to find some bargains around the side. And if you do that, if you're bringing in differentials around your team, then I think it is the best option to go with the safe captaincy.
I mean, I think you make a good point there. Is actually have a look at those template players. Are they good? So last week was a good example of Richarlison, for example. I've been fearing him because of his huge ownership, but last week I just came to the conclusion I don't care anymore, really. And I think you might be hitting something on Doherty as well. People are playing him. I'm going to play him next week as well, and perhaps they're better players. And same with Fabianski. When I had the chance to get Fabianski recently, I actually went for Foster because my rationale was, okay, you're not talking huge returns for goalkeepers, was that I just thought that Foster would get more points than Fabianski, and it's kind of almost working out. He's only getting more saves. I don't think you're not going to get a tremendous gain from that, but nevertheless, I think you make that game. But so what I'm not keen on is basically betting that a really good, consistent scoring player is suddenly going to go off the boil. And I think that's what they're doing. So, for example, to go against the Salah captaincy, looking at his last 8 game weeks, he's blanked twice. So the odds are in favour of him not blanking. So already you're betting that your captain is going to get a good score, plus the consistent scoring player is suddenly going to go off the boil. And so that's why I'm not keen on that. The thing that I like about this part of the season, really, and this part of the game, is the realisation that it doesn't really matter what points you get. And this may sound weird. It's the fact it's how many points you get above other people. Because what you're doing is you're playing against other people. And so it just sounds completely obvious. And so you've got to think how other people are thinking. So what are they going to do? And what won't they want to do? And one thing that served me quite well in recent seasons is the attacking double up. And I think that's been a really good tactic because a lot of people don't want to do that. I don't want to get Rashford because I've already got Pogba. I don't want to get Firmino because I've already got Salah. And you see that. Now, so I had a look at the last 4 starts. Pogba's got 34 points and Rashford has got 38 points. So anyone who said, I don't want to get Rashford because I've already got Pogba has missed out on huge points there. Same goes for Salah and Firmino, and this is one of the reasons I got Firmino in. So Salah's doing really well, obviously. Everyone's captaining him. So how can you get more points from this Liverpool team? Well, also get in the guy that is being assisted by Salah or is scoring alongside him as well, and Firmino. So the last 4 starts, Salah's got 40 points. Firmino's got 35. And so he's kind of quietly been racking up some really good scores. Another great double up, Sané and Sterling. Now, it didn't work out over Christmas because Fernandinho wasn't there. So this is good. So we know if Fernandinho is suspended or injured, don't go for this double up. But if he isn't, Great. Man City are free-flowing again. Sane, last 4 starts, 32. Sterling, 27. And to a lesser extent, but a really good one, I think, because it's good value, is Robertson, 20 points. Van Dijk, 14 over the last 4. So you're getting some returns there from both of them. And I think Jota and Jimenez could be another one as well. And I think it's already proved to be quite good so far. So that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at those double ups. And this all goes back. The first time I did this was Suarez, and something I've mentioned lots of times on the Scoutcast. Suarez was exactly the same as Salah for Liverpool. He was getting these huge returns. Everyone was captaining him. Everyone owned him. How on earth can you possibly get a green arrow? Simple. Get in Sturridge as well. Get in the guy that is assisting or scoring alongside him. And that's exactly my rationale with Firmino there. And I think that's the rationale that people should be looking at as well with Sane and Sterling. And Pogba and Rashford especially. Pogba and Rashford is wow. That's just absolutely fantastic. Double up there. But look at ownership too. So I was looking at FPL Discovery. It's a good resource for this type of thing. Look at them online. Salah had an effective ownership in the top 10,000. I mentioned this before, of 180%. So you need to having Salah and captaining him is not going to get you a green arrow. You need to be doing more, and perhaps having Robertson and Van Dijk alongside. Or perhaps having Firmino as well is going to get you that. So looking at Pogba and Rashford, see that's not as lucrative, but potentially more lucrative. So in the top 10,000s, 87% own Rashford and 78% own Pogba. So if you own both, you're going to get a green arrow, but maybe not a big one. But this Sane Sterling one, this is a biggie. Sane's got 33% ownership in the top 10,000 and Sterling 13%. So for example, this week, both of them got double-digit haul. And David, we asked why did you get your green arrow? And so you mentioned Sane. I think it was Sane. And why did I get a good green arrow this week? It was Sane, really. Because of that ownership there. And if I had Sterling as well, I'd have had even bigger green arrow. So it's exploiting that reluctance to double up. It's look out on Twitter. Look at Fantasy Football Scout. Look for what people saying they won't do. Oh, I'm not going to get that player because of this. I'm not going to... And think about it and think, well, actually, are they missing out? And can you exploit that? Because every time you exploit that successfully, they get a red arrow and you get a green arrow. And so for me, the double up one. But I think people, listening and watching will have their own ideas about it. And, you just got to try them out. And it's experience, really. And it'll teach you whether something works out. And I think the Dele Alli one was great as well. I mean, it's so annoying that he got injured. So people look back at that and say, I got Dele Alli in as a great differential, a low-owned player. No one else would want to get him in. It worked out that 1 week, and then he got injured. So people look back at that, and I think that was, on the whole, I thought that was a really good move for people to get that in. So hats off to Dele Alli owners, and commiserations as well. You did a brave and good thing there. But
to infinity and beyond.
Yeah, I don't know, David. Did you have any other further thoughts really about getting this big green arrow?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to bring an anecdote to you that just completely backs up what you were saying about Firmino, but from the other side of it, from last season, when, I mean, to be honest, this is not the first time in Salah's Premier League career that we've been sat here going, oh, how do we get around this big stumbling block of everyone's got Salah and they're captaining him? And last season it was Firmino, and some people, I even remember at one stage, someone that I was in a mini league with had Mane, Firmino and Salah. And it was just devastating. And I only had Salah until I eventually got Mane on a double up. And I think I never owned Firmino the whole of last season, and that was one of my biggest mistakes. It just never. There was never a time when I felt that it was right for what I had available to me. And I probably used some of the excuses you've used there. Of, I don't want to do this because of that. I don't want to do this because of that. And basically Liverpool games were really tough, even as in following them, because even when I captained Salah, the goal, because Firmino assisted a goal from my captain, I look at my rank and it was going down. My captain scored a goal and my live rank has dropped because I don't have the guy that assisted him.
Exactly.
My captain's got an assist, but my live rank goes down because I don't have the guy who scored the goal that he assisted, but everybody else does. And it might get to that stage where if they can get back, because I still don't think Liverpool quite where they were 12 months ago in terms of ruthless attacking force, but if they can get back to that, and as you've mentioned, Firmino in good form, on the other side of that, I can confirm as someone who didn't do what I should have done that it can be damaging. because the people who've thought smartly about it have made the right choice. So yeah, definitely, I think that's a good way to go around it, as a double up.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about the double up, or perhaps any other ways to get that green arrow?
Yeah, the double up's always worked well with me in the past, particularly Liverpool last year. I had Coutinho and Salah. This year I started the season with Mane and Salah, which was really nice. Yeah, and I mean the ownership's high, isn't it? So like you're saying, David, it's really frustrating when your player scores and then your live rank goes up, and that does seem to happen, and it's what makes the template so kind of irritating, is that your team can score quite highly, but people have got those players, and then the players that are assisting and scoring, and so your suddenly good score isn't actually that good. Yeah, I mean, City are a team which, if there was just a bit more security about their starts, then I think a lot more people would double up on them. Having one, in a way, having two kind of minimises your risk, because you're going to be pretty sure that at least one of them is going to play.
Why I also like that. I was going to say why I also like the Sané Sterling one, because this is once again just looking at the psychology of other managers, and there were quite a lot that did the Sané Sterling double up over Christmas, and because Fernandinho was out, it just flopped, and they're just going to be reluctant to do it. Yeah, but you're all smart enough to know that basically it was Fernandinho was the difference there, and that Sané and Sterling together are doing well at the moment. But other people might not realise that, might not look at it, and they just might be put off. Oh, I did that a few weeks back and it didn't work. And once again, it's just exploiting that move. And players that are unpopular, unfashionable. It'd be great if Nasri started form because people don't like him. And he's another player that could end up being a really good template buster. I mean, I'm not suggesting. I mean, at the moment he looks like the odd assist. But he's just an example of a player that people just don't like and aren't going to get in because of it. And I think that's what we should be doing, really. Let's move on to game week 24. So I've got the fixtures up here, and as differentials and clean sheets. So how did we do? And who are we going to pick this week then? Yeah,
so let's start with the clean sheets. FPL Fairy once again diligently filling these out. Thanks to him for doing these, because I forget every week, and then he's done them, so it's really helpful. So we start with the clean sheets. So David went for City and nailed it. Luke got a rare one and went for Watford.
Oh, of course he did.
Yeah. So got a 0-0. And me and you, Joe, went for Liverpool and United respectively, and failed. So yeah, it's a bit rubbish. David, you're now top of the pile, 53% right.
Yes.
This season.
Very
nice. So shall we? Well, who's first on the list? Oh, it's Joe. You're first. Who are you going for?
I'm going to go for Arsenal. So they've actually been quite good at home defensively, even though defence is all over the shop and hit by terrible injuries as well. And Bellerin is out for the whole season as well. So that's awful.
It's a different injury to the one that he did before. It's so unfortunate.
But they've only conceded 2 in the last 4 home matches, I believe. It's joint best with Chelsea. 2 clean sheets, 2. And they face a Cardiff side that over their last 4 away matches has the joint lowest number of big chances, 2, and they missed both of them. So it's the stars are aligning, I think, and I think a clean sheet looks likely there.
Yep, nice. David, you're next.
I've gone for Liverpool. I'm going really outside the box here. Some people are a little bit concerned because obviously conceding 3 at home to Crystal Palace is a bit sort of like, well, what? Like Palace? But I still think there's an element of, the boogeyman about Palace when it comes to Liverpool. And also Milner, I think, was horrendously exposed to Zaha, for example, and obviously suspended. So there's no way that he can be exposed again. And Alexander-Arnold might even be back. Leicester, on the other hand, kind of just don't really look like the kind of team that are just in a good place right now. I know that they were quite spirited against Wolves, but Wolves have hardly been, defensively great at home. So I'm not hugely surprised that they got some goals there. So sorry to be really boring. I'm going to minimise risk, like we were talking earlier, and go for a Liverpool clean sheet.
Yeah, makes sense. Luke was the next pick. He's not here. Before we just give him a little shout out. He's gone for City, which I think is like the 6th time in 10 picks that he's gone for City. He's only got 1 right. Doesn't have much luck with them, but you can see the logic.
He's going to get it eventually.
I think that's his plan. Just keep picking City until he eventually gets one. It's a good strategy. And I was next. I'm going to go for Wolves at home to West Ham. I think West Ham are just such a funny team this season, and we'll talk about transfers later. I've got Felipe Anderson, who just is their main goal threat and creative player, and just kind of doing everything. He looks knackered. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. He's playing pretty much every minute. He's now, expected to do even more. He's now gone 4 games without any 3 or 4 games without any attacking returns, and that Arsenal game was such a great result, and then they've just been brought back down to earth again by that Bournemouth match. And I just wonder if they're going to really be able to pick themselves up against Wolves, who are going to be flying after getting that 4-3 win. I think, in all honesty, it's going to be quite a comfortable home win for Wolves. So I'm going to stick with them. Differentials.
Go for it.
Next. So let's just see. Oh, I mean, he didn't go well again. I didn't. I went for David Silva last week. He got 1 point. David, you went for Ashley Barnes. He got 2 points. I can't quite remember who you went for, Joe. Was it a certain sexy Spanish
wannabe? Yeah, the switch was flicked and off he went.
The switch was flicked. Yeah, 9 points. Very nice. And Luke went for Delafeo, who got 2 points. And he just wanted to point out that Delafeo missed a 1-on-1 in that match. So he wasn't too happy. So top of the pile is still me. No, it's not. No, it's definitely not. I'm doing rubbish. It's Joe with 42%.
Hooray! What do I win?
Hooray!
What do I win?
Oh
Nothing.
God! Don't sound too excited.
Yeah, we do need to come up with some kind of prize.
Well, I need some. Yeah, if you said you win a holiday or something, that would be amazing.
It should be something that's owned by less than 5% of people.
Yeah. We'll have a thing. Send your suggestions in. So I'm gonna go first this week. I am gonna go for Kolasinac, hoping for a clean sheet, like you predicted, Joe. But also because I just keep seeing these stats about him being their most creative player, with Ozil out, and just a bit of a weird system they play. I don't think Emery really hasn't really got a kind of a perfect system in mind, but it was enough to beat Chelsea, so he's obviously doing something right. But he's just such a threat, isn't he? Just going down the left, bombing forward. I owned him for a bit and then sold him for Shaw, and I'm kind of regretting it now because I think this Cardiff game is absolutely perfect for him. So I think he's in the bonus quite a lot.
If I didn't have double and blank game weeks to consider and on the horizon, I would be swapping Alonso for Kolasinac now.
Yeah,
because I think you're right, because he's just so attacking, and they are getting the odd clean sheet, especially at home. So yeah, I think that's a great call. That's a good one. That.
I really, he's one of my favourite players to watch, especially when he plays in a kind of wing-back system, because he's just so relentlessly attacking throughout the match. He is kind of like an Alonso. He's Alonso-esque. Doesn't deliver as many points as him in his prime.
At this stage is a poor man's Alonso.
But for 4.9, it's really
exactly
yeah. So Joe, you're next.
Well, I'm going to go for Milivojevic, who doesn't really get mentioned much because he's seen as being overpriced, and he sort of is kind of, but a bit less so now. So he's 6.1 now, away to Southampton, but he's been quietly racking up half decent returns for his price, because no one really is interested in him. It's gone unnoticed really. So last 4 away games, he scored twice and got an assist for 6.1. I think that's a pretty good return. So obviously he's on corners. We know he's on penalties. That's where the source of his main points come from. And over the last 4 home matches, Southampton have conceded 8, which is the joint second worst over that time frame. Once again, I think it kind of, the two sides collide there, and I think Palace are pretty good away from home at the moment for some unknown reason. I think time for Milivojevic time.
Nice research. David?
So I've done this before. It hasn't worked. I'm going to do it again. I'm going for a Huddersfield player. Yay! Because I can absolutely confirm they're definitely under 5%. It's even someone I've gone with before. It's Steve Mounier. So we're going to have an article on the website tomorrow morning or Wednesday morning if you're listening to us, on Wednesday. It's already there. Just looking at this new manager who is not Martin from Wakefield. Let's make that point very clear. He's a little bit left field. He's a little bit kind of untested, but It looks like he's going to try and bring some attacking football to Huddersfield, play an exciting 4-3-3. So I have a sneaky suspicion that in a 4-3-3 system, Mounier will get a little bit more support and a little bit more help than they were playing like 3-5-1-1, which to me just seems like just such a weird formation. They were putting loads of crosses into the box from deep, and they weren't reaching him basically. This particular game against Everton, I think, is a really great first game for the new manager, because Everton are kind of at a bit of a crossroads. If they basically, they seem to have just kind of gone off the boil. We've talked about Richarlison going off the boil. They were just rubbish against Southampton. Southampton made them look really ordinary, and obviously Southampton were able to just kind of put their stamp on that game with a very high press, because that's what Hasenhüttl likes. And it looks as if this new Huddersfield manager is a similar type of manager who favours a high, energetic press. So to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Huddersfield are the dominant team in this game. Mounier himself, 11 shots last 4, 9 in the box, 6 on target, and that's only from playing 273 minutes. So his minutes per chance is actually better than Salah's. So it's minutes per chance, 1 every 24.8 minutes.
His miss against City though in the last
No, I know. So I know he's got a miss in him, but that's why this is the differentials. There's always a bit of risk with him, but I don't know. I kind of get this feeling about Huddersfield that they're going to surprise people. Everyone's kind of written them off already, and I do think that I just sense something there that they could get a result against Everton. So.
Well, did you know this is the third Huddersfield player you've picked?
Yeah.
And you've picked Mounier before.
I have, yeah. When he got sent off.
Remember what he got? Yeah.
He got sent off. So
he got a nice -2 for you.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So I like that pick. Did you see this week the excellent announcement of the Huddersfield boss? So for those that didn't see,
incredible.
The Sky Sports reporter thought he spied the new manager in the crowds at the City game, and went over to him and said, "Are you going to take over as be the new manager?" And he went, "No, I'm a bloke called Martin from Wakefield." And the really, really smart people at Huddersfield Town, so when they finally announced their new manager, they got Martin from Wakefield, who happened to be a chap called Martin Warhurst, who's chief executive of a children's hospice called Martin House, local in the area, and he was a charity guest of Huddersfield at the time. I believe he's also a Man City fan, and they got him in the launch video, settling into his new desk, on the phone saying, "Oh, don't you know, Sky Sports have reported I'm the new manager," and then the new manager comes in.
The MFW
they even gave him his own initials on it, and then the new manager came in and all very tongue-in-cheek turfed him out, and then announced himself as the new manager. But it was really smart PR. And it's given, and the other great thing about it is this guy is the chief executive of Martin House Hospice, and it's given them loads of publicity, and it's raised more money for them, and for a great cause as well, and it's a great laugh and good to poke fun at Sky Sports reporters as well. So that was good. Let's move on to our moves.
Just one final thing, just to say that Luke's gone for Danilo.
Ooh. Okay.
He likes to be involved.
He does, yes, and his love affair with the Man City backline continues. Let's move on to our moves for next week. We'll go for David first. I'll put it's a new feature. We've finally got it together to actually get our bus teams for the following game week together. So we've got your bus team. That's a trademark, by the way, for the Always Cheating podcast. They invented that. And so we will credit them. We can see who you're captaining. Why are you captaining Salah? And what potential moves might you make? Because you've got 2 free transfers, so you're going to make something.
Yes. Yeah, I do still have 2 free transfers. I've been rolling it for ages. If it was a snowball, it'd be the size of a house by now. Fear not, everybody. I know those of you who are watching on YouTube will see I'm starting Snodgrass. Don't worry, that is not happening. He's almost certainly going to be going out. Whenever I have a player who I intend to sell for someone I will want to start next week, whenever I do my best team, I put the player I'm selling into my lineup. He's going to go. And I don't actually know who he's going to be replaced by. It will largely depend on what happens in the League Cup and the FA Cup. Once I have a clearer idea of what the fixture schedule is, and maybe if we've got a double in game week 25, something like that, to use a hypothetical example, if we know that Chelsea are not playing double game week 27, or maybe they are going to play in blank game week 27 because they've lost the League Cup, then I'd be more inclined to put Hazard in there. I could put Eriksen in there. I could put one of the Man City options in there. So I don't know who it's going to be. He's going to go. What I do, because basically I've got all that money in the bank, so I'm definitely going to be able to use that this week. Whether or not I use a second transfer, again, kind of depends on the fixtures as well. If we're looking at a double in game week 25, then I might use them both on some City options perhaps, because I quite like the idea of Sané and maybe De Bruyne, something like that. So a lot up in the air, but yeah, it will involve Snodgrass out and will depend on the fixtures, and of course, yeah, Salah captain. No point explaining that.
Okay, as is your team. Hey, look, Salah captain for your team.
What a surprise!
There we go.
Can't see any...
You've learnt your lesson. Enough of your maverick ways, Sonny.
Yeah, I mean the United players are a little bit tempting at home to Burnley, considering their form, but I think let's not do that again. Let's stick with Salah. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I think my team actually looks quite good this week. I'm relatively happy. I just need to work out who to play. I think I've got Felipe Anderson starting there, but I might bench him for Ings. I might even play Wan-Bissaka over someone if I don't play Ings, because I think any three of those players could do all right, and they could equally blank. So it's hard to know what to do. I'm very tempted to ditch Felipe Anderson and bring in Jota or Lucas Moura. As I mentioned earlier, if Lucas Moura starts on the bench against Chelsea, comes off the bench, plays up front and scores a goal, and he looks pretty likely to lead the line against Watford, then I think he could be a really good pick. They need some pace. Tottenham team just is desperate for some pace, and he is pretty much the only player that can provide that. So I do think he's going to be really important for them. It just depends whether you think Tottenham are going to be able to cope with all their injuries, or whether they're going to labour to or if they're going to draw. Or they got lucky against Fulham. I think Fulham were much the better team in that game. But I do like him as a differential option. So I could do Felipe Anderson to Moura, and then I don't know who I'd bench out of that lot. It'd probably have to be one of the defenders being benched to favour the midfielder. So yeah, that's me. I'm not entirely sure. I could even save the transfer and keep the two going forward. So a few things I could do.
I'll put my team up. Yeah, Salah, captaincy, because it's him, and he's against Leicester, and Leicester's defence looked absolutely awful against Wolves. Each goal was going in. I was like, wow, I can't wait to see Salah against this lot. But yeah, obviously Sané and Pogba, even Rashford, also into consideration. But I'm hoping to save a transfer. I haven't got 2 free transfers. I'm currently benching Alonso again away to Bournemouth, Wan-Bissaka away to Southampton. I think they're both quite good options. There, I just happen to prefer Dean and Doherty and Robertson. I'm going to have to play Foster. I was hoping to play my Palace goalkeeper, but he's still injured probably. So I've just got to hope that Foster gets loads of saves. Or indeed, looking at Spurs, I'm not sure who can score for them at the moment. So it could be a 0-0. I just hope to save it, and obviously keeping an ear out for those double game weeks and those blank game weeks really. That's me really. Hope for the best, hoping for another green arrow. So thanks David and Az for joining me and for enlightening hopefully the viewers and the listeners with ways to get green arrows. And I think that's the key thing from tonight really. Jota could be the man for some to get a good green arrow. Man City, ignoring their blank and just getting them in because they're good, could be a way. And also all those double ups as well, and perhaps either just sticking to the right captaincy, the kind of, let's say right captaincy. Salah is the right captain, but sticking to the kind of the normal captain decision or going a bit maverick could be the way. So it's really up to different people. But for now, it's a good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night.
Good night all.